Hey there, I'm NivMiz and I like to make games. I'm currently developing a high-speed movement game where you pull yourself around with black holes. Last devlog, I explained how I finished up my player's movement by adding wall running and jumping, and in this video I'll explain how I crafted some levels that make the players use their movement options to their fullest. But before we get into that, if you're interested in this game, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe. Less than 1% of you guys actually are, and it really helps me out and shows me that you guys are supporting this project. Anyway, after the last devlog, I was getting sick of this test level, and I wanted to make some tightly designed maps that require the player to master all the movement mechanics of the game if they want to beat the level really fast. The game will be a speedrunner, so there will be levels where you can't even die, but your goal will be to beat the level as fast as possible. Of course, there will still be levels that try to kill you, but this design choice means that death isn't the only form of failure. This concept gives levels replayability even after you've beaten them a few times, and hopefully, replaying a level a bunch of times to optimize your time will be really fun. As you can see on screen, I used a Unity package called ProBuilder to block out the level design. I used tight shrinking corridors to signal to the player that they should be using the wall jump, and I added some twisting and turning pads to encourage using your black holes to zigzag around and gain speed. I took a lot of inspiration from racetracks with their crazy turns, but kind of morphed them into fully three-dimensional movement challenges, as the player themselves have full freedom to move in 3 dimensions. Next, I reworked the player's movement code, making it based on something called a state machine, a programming pattern that separates the logic for each state the player could be in, giving me more customization and making it much easier for me to make little changes without breaking something else. With this change, my code turned from absolute spaghetti to really organized and readable. Plus, the movement feels smoother than ever, and I think it's already really fun to replay levels a bunch of times to try to get a good time. A good sign that you have a fun game mechanic on your hands is when you yourself as the programmer procrastinate working on improving the game because you keep playing it over and over again, and this is definitely the case in this scenario. I also came up with a name for the game, Singularium. It fits the black hole theme, plus it works with the story I want to tell with this game, but more on that in a future devlog. Finally, I made some UI for the level ending, which I quite like the style of. Plus, the levels end by slamming face first into a glowing wall, which I find quite funny. I've finished 3 levels so far, which you've been seeing on screen in this video. I want the final game release to have at least 1 to 2 hours of gameplay, so I'm hoping to get about 30 or so levels done by then. Next devlog, I'll revamp the level's art, because this test to grid texture is starting to get boring, and I also hope I'll have the game's Steam page up and running by then, so subscribe to stay tuned for that. As always, if you like the video. Comment any suggestions for level ideas or mechanics, or what you think about the game. And until next time, bye!